So it's finally time to start adding in pickup objects into our game. So we're going to set it up so we have these coins and gems that we're going to be adding into our project. So the first thing was to create the animations, and I used Pascal to do it because it works well for pixel-based animation. After that, I'm going to export it out, and I'm going to, well, not as a three, no, I'm going to do eight columns, 2 rows for it to make my sheet. Now I'll download the PNG and I'll put it into my sprites folder. So now that I have created that, if I go and look into my sprites folder, I will see there is the PNG for my sprite animation. So I have my little gem with the highlight around it. I have the coin that does the rotating coin. So I will be able to use these as I embed them into my game. So I will need to make sure that once I have finished adding this artwork in Tiled, as I add it directly to my world, that I will need to load it as an asset here as well. So back in Tiled, we're going to add in our pickups and our enemies so that we will be able to work with them inside our game so that we don't have to figure out how to put these on screen by numbers. We'll be able to do it visually, which makes things a lot easier to work with. So what I'm going to do is add a new tile layer. And on this tile layer, this is where I'm going to be able to put my enemy, or my pickup. We'll start with our pickups first, then we'll add in the enemies. So I'm going to put in my pickups, and it's going to put it into the world. I want it at the top up here. Now, we need to populate that. That means I need to bring in the tile set with my pickups. So to do that, in my tile set window, I can click New Tile Set, and now it's time to go find that tile set. So I can browse, and I'm going to choose the correct folder here, where I've now put, in my sprites, I put my pickups here. You also can see the monsters are there. We'll be adding their tile sheet a little bit later. So once I put the pickups in, I can click OK. Make sure Embed in Map is selected. I can leave the name as is. I don't really need to change anything. I know that it's 16 by 16 and there was no spacing. That's how I made the sprite sheet. So we'll click OK. Now if I click over here, I can see there is my pickups. So I can draw these onto my map. So I can decide that if I want to put a string of coins right here, maybe I'll put another string of coins right here for the player to pick up, and then I'm going to add in, make these a little more out of the way so they're a little harder to get to, and maybe put one down here just for kicks. So these will be my health gems. So I can export this. I can bring it into my code, and with the updated JSON this is going to give me, I will be able to then work with this inside my project. And that's great, but I don't have a way of accessing these directly. Now I could do it by accessing their index, and that means I have to then go through the code and look for it. But there's going to be a better way to do that. So the same way that when we set up our world map, we said which tiles were collidable and which ones weren't, I'm going to do that in a similar fashion here. So I can go into this tile set, and I am going to now select all of these tiles. And I mean, I only drew with these two, but in case I were to draw with any of the others, then that would make it would prevent me from having any issues happening down the road. So I'll just select all of them. I'm going to add in a custom property. Now the property I want to add here is going to, I can make it named whatever I want as part of it, but the property I want to select or create will be called kind. Now I can click OK. Now I can select all of my gems here, and I'll call those health gem. And then I will select my coins and say gold coin. So now I have set those up as a custom property. So I will save this as part of my tile set. And now that I've drawn these into my world, I am going to export this out. So I need to make sure I choose the correct place that I want to put it, which I know is going to be in this folder right here. And then we can put it into the scripts. And I will say OK. So now we're done for now in tiled. We'll come back to tiled when we add in the enemies. So we have a pickups layer that we've added. We added in a new tile set. With that tile set, we set a custom property for those tiles. So we're going to figure out how to access that now inside code. So the first thing that we're going to do is load in our pickup sprite sheet. So we'll just grab a copy of this, and this will be, we'll just call it pickups, as we're going to bring it in. Now if I look for where it is, it's in my assets folder, and then it is pickup small. And the frame size for it is not 32, but was set at 16. So that now gives me access to my pickups. Now, I've added a different file here. And instead of using the previous tiled map, I now have a different JSON file that I made here. So we can now see it's purple map objects video.json is the file that I exported. So I need to make sure I'm loading the correct entity. But I do need to make sure I get it correct. It's purple map objects video. Let's save that. Okay, so now there's no error messages. Our scene has loaded as we wanted, so we're good in that regard. So it's still working for the previous layers that we needed in our project. So now we need to set up a few more things if we're going to work with this. So we are going to go down here and finish out referencing things. So we will have our gems, no, not game scene, gems, and this dot coins. So that now gives us our two objects that we are working with, and we need to now add them into the project. So to add them in, so we'll set up a new layer. It'll be pickup layer. Map.create static layer. And this time, we need to make sure we reference the same name that we used inside of tiled, because these names are the names that are in tiled. And I called it pickups. So then we will reference that. We're then using our tile set. That is coming from our tiled, and then 0, 0. So this now grabs all the tiles out of our whole project. Now we can go grab our tile set. Now I do want to look back here and notice, so I've put the pickups here and we're referencing them as a tile layer so we can easily draw them. But we're going to be grabbing them almost as an object layer so that we can work with it as a set of objects. But objects don't give us the easy paint on characteristics of tiles, so that's why I'm electing not to do it in that regard. So now when I look back here, even though I said I'm using tile set, I mean we're not really ever going to draw these tiles from this because they're really not coming from tile set, because tile set, when I go back up here, is actually the purple map of tiles that we're working with. Because if we look here, we add this tile set image. Now we never added a tile set image for the pickups using the pickup artwork on it because we're going to instead load animation. So what we're doing is we're using this layer to just get position and kind information. The kind being, is it a gem or is it a coin? So if you're looking at it going, wait a sec, what's going on? Because tile set refers to the purple map, not to the pickup art. That's what's actually happening there. So it's all going to be okay. So we don't need to stress about it. So we're using this in a way to gain access to it, to have easier painting as we then add it into our project. So now that we have put all of this in, we're going to populate this pickup layer that we're working with some new artwork. So to do that, we're going to add another section into our project here. So throw in a whole bunch of comment lines so it's easy to find. And this will be my pickups as I'm going to put them into the project. Now, we need to create the animations that are going to go with this, and then we're going to grab the information from the tile set so we can put it in the project. So to create my animations, if my fingers will work, and then we'll set a key. This will be coin animation, and the frames will be this dot anims dot generate frame numbers, because I loaded this as a simple sprite sheet, not as an atlas. And, oh no, it's called pickups, I believe. Let's look up here and verify. And when we loaded it, it is called pickups. So this is the name that I'm referencing here as I'm writing this for what texture I want to be loading here. And then, so the coin, if we remember, the coin started out at frame 0 and it ended at frame 7 because there are 8 frames for it. And then I will set my frame rate. We'll give it a try at 12 and see how it works. And then we'll set a repeat to -1 so it can be looping. And we get to rinse and repeat. This time it's going to be my gem animation. Grabs out of pickups and it starts at frame 8 and goes through frame 15. So these two animations, it's the same as everything else. In the near future, we will do an optimization where we will pull all of our animations that we're generating and put them into a separate section so that it makes our code a little bit easier to follow and read, because there's really no reason that we need to have them tied in either individual classes like player and enemy or inside of our main script here, because the animations do belong to the scene. Thus, they always say this. So they belong to the scene. So we might as well just put them into a separate document so it doesn't pollute our main document and will make it easier to read. So I'll start and say this, the coins is going to be equal to this .physics.add.group. So going back to the days of the very first demo game using the phaser tutorials, where we created the stars and added them, they just went into a simple group, because once they're in a group, it's easy to iterate through them the same way we iterate through the enemy group. So now that we've put them into a group, we need to try to figure out how can we access them. So what we're going to do is on the pickup layer, we're going to say for each tile, and then we'll create an anonymous method here, and we'll grab individual tiles, and then with those tiles we are going to start trying to figure out what is there. So to begin with, I'm just going to do a simple log with that, and I will say tile. So let's see what we get. And wow, that populated my console and it put a lot there. It turns out there are 500 tiles, because that's how big our map is it's 500 tiles total that make it up. So it's 20 by 25 tiles. That gives us the size of our game. Now if I look here, we can start looking at this information, and this is how we're going to figure out how to get to the properties of it. So we can see that these tiles have oh, what's this? It's not index of -1, it's index of 1065. And then 1065 and 1060. Now if I jump back over to tiled, oh, notice first whole row, there's no tiles there. Then we move it in the next row, boom, there's a gem, and they're at 1065. So now let's keep going down. If we can find a different number, 1057, 57, 57, alternate. So we can deduce that 1065 would be the gem, 1057 is going to be the heart, and now let's look through here, and I can see, oh wait, there's even a properties in here, and it has kind and gold coin for that one. And if we went and found one of the other ones, 1065, but let's see if this, yep, health gem. So that's starting to clue us in as to where we want to go. So when the index is not -1, the index of -1 means that there's no artwork being drawn there. So there is no tile, because back at tiled, there's no tile. If I turn off the other layers, we can see empty tiles here, and that's the first tile. And if I had counted through, this would be 25, 26, 27, so the 28th one would have been that first one we saw that did not have an index of -1. So we can now use this to our advantage. So if I were to instead go here and say if tile.index is not equal to -1, then let's do something. And now let's log out these tiles and see what happens. Say this, and lo and behold, look, now all of our tiles have these indexes. Okay, that's good. So we're making progress here. Let's try a little bit more. Now let's log out the prop. What did we get here? Oh, look at that. The property, so these tiles have a property of kind, and the kind is the type of one we've put into it. And we're going to be using a similar method with the monsters when we paint the monsters into our tile set, or into our tile map, I mean. So we'll use the monster tile set to add a layer of monsters to the tile map, and then we'll be able to give them a kind property. We can give them a damage property. We can give them speed property, any of these other variables that we want to be able to then pull from it, so we don't have to worry about keeping track of it or writing it into the code. And now the game reset, so it just redumped out all of those messages once more. So now if I were to just say kind here, let's see what happens, and it logs out gems and coins, gems and coins. So that's going to give us what we need to be able to pull this off. Well, this is pretty exciting. We've been able to figure out how to use this custom property that we put in our tile map. Well, we attached it to the tile set, used it in the tile map, so now it's written into the JSON so we can work with it. And looking at it there, I think, was a little bit easier than looking at it through the JSON, going, okay, where, let's see, it's my pickup layer, and I can see there's all those zeros, and then there's 1065. And so it gives me, numbers and stuff. Well, and where did we see? And there's, the whole string of coins going across. So it gives me numbers, it gives me some information to work with, but it's hard to figure out, okay, how do I find that number, or how do I find that property that goes with that particular tile? It gets a little bit trickier that way because we can see we now have 500 of these occurring per layer that we've put into the project. So yeah, it gets, see, now we have these. Okay, so we're looking for a property of kind, and then we look for its value. So if we can get a sense of where something is inside the JSON, so we can get it, try and figure out how to log it, but often just logging out the base object and then looking through the console to see what's there, we can start to narrow down our search. So now it comes time to start populating these. So now I'm going to just make a variable here. No, not pickup layer, just pickup. And we're going to set some x and y's. So we get the center x. Well, get center y now. And if I go back, here, let me just do that. Now save this. And let's see, line 100. Oh. What's unhappy with there? Missing initial. Oh, because it wants a value. Oh, and we can't use const here. Let's just use pickup. Now, when we set these in, if I look here and start looking through the values, this is how we're going to start to figure out what these properties are. So we can see there's the properties kind that we're accessing. And then we can, so we're starting to look for where the values are to figure out centers, center Y, center X, etc. as part of it. So this is part of figuring it out and getting these values. The other way you can do it is go find yourself a nice tutorial. Someone writes some of the code for you that gets you partway through the solution, and then you figure out the rest. So now if tile.properties.kind, which is what we figured out, is equal to gold coin. That tells me now we have a gold coin. So if it is a gold coin, then we can say pickup is equal to this dot coins dot create, and then we put it at x and y, and the object we are going to put in is going to be a coin. Now that we have set that up, let's go pickup dot anims dot play, and we will say coin animation and true that we want it to loop. So then what we can say is else if, now I didn't say just a straight else because I just want to make sure that for some reason If something else is there, or if we added additional objects, then we're already prepared for that. So now we are going to grab our health gem. So if it's a health gem, then it's going to be the same sort of thing. Pick up is going to be equal to this dot gems instead of coins dot create x comma y comma gem, and then pick up dot. And remember, we can tell. We can tell the player to start playing the coin animation if we want. It looks silly, but we could, because the animations are simply tied to the scene. They're not tied to the object. So if we get that out of our head that the animation is the object is the object. It's a shell. And then we are able to populate that shell. So that shell has properties x, y, z, rotation, whatever else we're putting into it, scale, tint, etc. And then we can just dump whatever graphic or animation or texture into it at whatever time we want. Now we do need to give these height and width so that they will register for the physics, so that the player will be able to collide with them or overlap with them depending on how we choose to implement it, so that we can make things happen. Let's see, no error messages. Wow, it's like magic. No error messages. They showed up. We can see all the animations are running. Life is good. With the coins and the gems showing up in our world, now is the time to add them to our project. So the first thing I'm going to do, though, just to make this a little bit easier, is we will beautify the file so that cleans up all of our indents, so things are looking a little bit better. So now what I want to do, just going to put a thing here. Oh, forgot a slash. Let's try that again, so that we know this is the section we're working on. This will be my handle, player, coin, collision. And we'll pass into it player and the coin so we can do something with them. Now the easiest thing to do will be to tell the coin to get destroyed when we run into it, and then we can add in some other things as well. So we could also keep track of a coin value. So why don't we do that so we know that we're scoring? And this is coin score, and coin score will start out at 0. So now every time we capture a coin, let's just this dot coin score plus equals 1. And then let's log that out. Use our little curly brace trick. This dot coin score. Save that. Now you will notice it didn't like me putting this in here like this. So what we can do is just say let cs equal this dot coin score. Like that. And so now we have populated it. If we look here, you can see there it is. And nothing's happening yet, of course, because we forgot to then put that in. So there's our projectiles. So we really should put all of the collisions, ideally. Yeah, we'll move them all into, I think, one place because we added in the projectile. So we should move those down, but right now, instead of repurpose, I'm just going to repurpose this since I'm no longer using it, since we put all the enemies into it. So this would be coins. So player, coins, With that, I'm going to do collision.overlap just because that's the mood I'm in today. And this would be handle player coin collision. But this time, when we pass it in, we're going to have to pass in, no, duh, we're passing in our values right there, and then it calls this. So we're not doing anything with P yet, that's why it's giving us that. Let's see, so it's blah, blah, blah. And it's not physics add collision, it's physics add collider. Now let's see, okay, no error message, and the coin went away. And we can see our coin score went up for each coin that we captured. So we have that happening there. We will want to display that text on screen. That would be a nice thing to do as part of this, so we could add in that text information. So going back into our project here, we'll just make a little section here. This will be our coin text, and this dot coin text is going to be equal to this dot add dot text, and we'll try maybe x of 300. And we want to put, I'm going to put this one, let's see, 20. We'll have to finesse the position of this as we work with it. So now we add coin score. So now we add that in. And now let's size it. No, when we size it, no. So this is now giving it the same size that we had for a health bar, and then we'll fill it with white. So that now adds in our coin text that we're working with it, and then when we collide, we can then use method of this dot coin text is now going to use the set text. So we don't want to recreate it each time, we just want to create it once and then we can set its value each time. So we just change the text in it, but we don't want to create a new object each time. So now we can populate it like this. So let's see, did we land it where we want? So it's the same as the health bar, it's on top of that. I almost feel like we should put it up high. And we will be modifying this so that we will be moving these UI elements away from the game proper. Let's see if it's working. And yeah, we can see the coins are working, so there's no reason to keep logging it. So we can switch it here. So we don't really need to log that out anymore. So we can get rid of those. So that now gives me the coin text as part of it. So now we need to figure out how to start fitting in the gem into it. And the gems will be a little bit different because the gems are also going to update the health. Handle player gem collision. And we'll pass in the player and a gem as parameters for when it comes in. And now with this, we can just destroy the gem. So that gets rid of it. Now, after we do that, we can check and find out if the player's health is less than 95, remembering the player has a max health of 100. So we don't want to go into a super health state. We just want to increase it. So we don't want to add any more to the health if it's already at 100. So it only, so you can waste a gem if your health is maxed out, but you're not going to get any benefit from it. But this will now update the health on it It's part of it. And now, when we update that health, then we need to look back when we're damaged here. Every time we took damage, well, this is reversed, so instead of minus equals, we're now plusing that. And then we update the health bar, so I'm going to just copy that value, and then we will move this up into the gem option here, that we can then update our health information. So we can just put this into the health bar, so the health goes up, and then we update the health. Now that call, if the health was at 100, it updates it, but it's not going to be changing anything on it. So now we save this. Now notice it's also going up by 5. So when I ran into different enemies, okay, health, I just lost 50. Let's grab a coin. I feel good now. I got some score. Now my health is way down, and same thing on the coins. So I created the method, but I did fail to create the collide information. So now when we collide with a gem, now let's try that one more time. So, okay, health is down. Now let's watch the health bar, and we just saw the health bar go up. So I can collect coins, and I can watch my health. All right, so avoid, that's right, slime is bad. Avoid the slime. All right, health went back up. Got a few more coins. Good. Let's see, creep the health up. Get a little more. Oh, we lost some health. Might as well just end it all. Get this slime, and boom. All right, so we have our animated coins, our animated gems. They give us a score, per se. They give us health back. So we have pickup objects that are now interacting into our game using the same collisions that we've done before. And just to clean house a little bit, we'll get rid of that. And now we might even just take this entire, as part of our whole refactoring. I'm going to just move this down so that we have all of the collisions in one place. It makes more sense to do it that way. And then I will grab these, because otherwise, if you noticed, I was looking for the collisions and trying to find it. All right, so now we have our different collisions happening between the player and the enemy, the player and the coin, the player and the gem, the projectile and the world, and the projectile and the enemy. So these are all of the collisions that we have integrated so far into our game. Now that's different than, I suppose we have the collider for the enemies, and set collide world bounds there. All right, so I guess then this collider for enemies, we should pull that down here as well. Again, it's about being consistent in our organization. Colliding world bounds, because we're tying that to the individual items, to these enemies like that, so we're setting that in there. There's the player. And again, if we are trying to be a little bit more consistent, then let's go put that in. So player with the world layer, player with the enemies, player with coins, player with gems, projectiles, enemies. So we've greatly improved upon the whole process here of how we want things to work. We've added in pickups. Our code has become a little more clean and organized. So this project is taking shape.